A very warm welcome to IDFC First Bank Presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 12. I'm Ritwika Gupta. In line with World Sustainability Day, we bring you a very special discussion tonight focusing on the growing role of sustainability in corporate India, the role of innovation and the potential of MSMEs in the sustainability space. Joining me in this discussion are some prolific names. Dr. Vibha Dhawan, Director General, the Energy and Resource Institute, Ms. Seema Arora, Deputy Director General at the Confederation of Indian Industry, and Mr. Sushant Rabra, Partner, KPMG in India. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Vibha, Ms. Seema, and Mr. Sushant. So, as you know, our show reaches a broad audience of MSMEs, which, as we know, are the backbone of India's economy. And today, it's crucial, not just to focus on the growth of MSMEs, but also the integration of sustainable practices within business operations. And we are having this discussion in line with World Sustainability Day. So, to really set the stage, for our discussion, I'd like to ask each one of you a common question. How would you evaluate the potential of India's MSMEs and startups as well in the sustainability space? How effectively are they incorporating sustainability into their operational strategies? Let's start with you, Dr. Vibha.
Yeah, as you rightly mentioned, that MSMEs, they are backbone. We are talking about almost 65% of the production coming from small and medium enterprises. Now, what does this mean? This essentially means that unless and until they follow sustainable practices, the dream of becoming net zero cannot be fulfilled. So therefore, they are part and parcel of this long journey of achieving net zero. And therefore, they have to play a crucial role. Rather, all the government policies, the availability of technology, it should be such that we always keep small and medium enterprises in mind and give them the technology, give them the opportunity to go or follow greener path, and they themselves also trying to achieve a sort of net zero objective.
Ms. Seema?
Yeah, I would also like to just reinforce that the MSME sector really has a huge potential, and therefore it's a huge opportunity for us also. I feel that, the MSME sector, not only do they have the potential to absorb a lot of these technologies that we are trying to actually deliver as we go towards net zero, there's also a segment of, you mentioned startups, that's why I want to come to that. I think there's a huge potential from the startup industry to come up with these solutions which are affordable for the MSME sector. And I think that's the sweet spot, if I may call it, we need to find. There is this large, MSME demand for greener technologies, sustainable technologies, innovative solutions, which will put them on that path to net zero. And there is the vibrant, startup ecosystem, which can be leveraged to create these solutions, which are innovative, which are accessible and affordable. And I think that's where our policy, our advocacy should be directed to create that sweet spot and create that commonality and convergence to get us to go on that journey on net zero.
Absolutely. Mr. Sushant?
MSMEs, they constitute almost 60 to 70% of employment generation manufacturing units in India, and for almost 38% of total manufacturing exports, right? So the path to sustainable India will have to go through MSMEs. So whether you're talking about India becoming more sustainable or Indian supply chains contributing to more sustainable world, in both of these dimensions, I believe MSMEs will have a strong role to play. India has showcased very clearly how we can innovate for ourselves as well as for the world.
Sure.
We look at examples all around us where we have created large unicorns in various dimensions. I think there's an opportunity for Indian innovators to come up and create solutions which can be leveraged by companies around the world, especially in the mid-segment space, to adopt sustainability practices and create world-leading firms when it comes to sustainability.
Now, yes, speaking of innovation, I just want to pick up from what Mr. Sushant just shared. And Dr. Vibha, I want to bring you in here. Now, the Energy and Resource Institute has been at the forefront of promoting clean energy solutions. So tell us, how do you see the role of innovation and research in driving the sustainability agenda here in India?
See, what we have to ensure that we have solutions for the small and medium enterprises. If we look at what is happening in the country, most of the corporate sector, they have made commitments, some of them that they'll go net zero as early as 2030, but most say that by 2050, they will go net zero. And they are finding solutions to it, whether it is through solar or other renewable modes and other things. Now, what is the options available to small and medium enterprises? And that is where the research should go.
Ms. Seema, bringing you in here, you developed the Corporate Sustainability Management Framework, which focuses on building sustainable business enterprises. So if you could tell us, what are the main challenges, that businesses face when adopting sustainable practices, and how does your framework address these?
Yeah, so the Corporate Sustainability Management Framework is actually designed for companies to embed sustainability into their business model. See, the main challenge that companies face is that sustainability by definition is long-term, whereas companies are rewarded for their quarterly performance. So how do you balance this? The matrix is that the CEO or the company's performance is actually monitored quarter to quarter, whereas sustainability by definition is long-term. So our framework actually helps companies analyze the here and now, what they need to do, and then how do they use the returns from the here and now initiatives to go into the long term. So typically we work with a large company and we go through their value chain. We identify the hotspots in the value chain in terms of their suppliers, dealers, the other touch points. We provide through our corporate sustainability framework and the EcoEdge platform, which is a SaaS-based platform, we provide them capacity building, we provide them tools. We also then pool a lot of these companies who may be suppliers to the same sector sourcing companies. And we put these needs of these small companies together and try to source financing for them, try to source technological innovations for them. So what this does is allows for the suppliers of this finance or suppliers of these technological solutions to see some scale. Because if they have to go one by one to each company, it's a lot of cost. But if we are able to put this together, they can actually see the scale. That's how we go through clusters, also through sectors, but we do this taking the large company as the anchor company. So we try and bring the entire ecosystem together as CII. And we hope this will drive the transition over a period of time. Of course, we don't have time, so we need many partners to start driving this transition because that's the key thing. And as was mentioned earlier, to achieve net zero, the transition of this entire MSME sector and the value chain partners is very important, but treating them as actually partners, not just telling them do this. Because a lot of the time we see that a lot of requirements are put on MSMEs without giving them the capacity building, without giving them the technology or the finance. So we have tried to create this platform through the corporate sustainability framework and the EcoEdge tool, where we are enabling them, because the enablement is what will result in the change, we believe.
Fantastic. I really liked what you said about, there's not much time, and it couldn't be more accurate, because this is a crucial reminder that companies and the private sector must step up their efforts. Sushant, coming to you, given the current global push for ESG compliance, tell us then, what role can the private sector play in advancing the sustainable agenda in India? And how can companies, balance profitability with sustainability in a practical and scalable way?
If you look at what IMF has to say, especially for emerging economies, they believe that 90% of the total investment required to actually transition, to actually implement sustainability in these economies is going to come from private sector. So which means private sector actually is going to play an outsized role in actually making this happen. So that's first. Number two is we believe that private sector will extensively work with the government especially from policy and advocacy perspective, to ensure that the regulatory landscape is conducive for this change. The third one, which I think is oftentimes not that well understood, is the entire sustainability wave cannot happen without the availability of talent, without the availability of skills which are equipped to handle this entire transition, right? So we see private sector extensively investing in building out these skills, not necessarily through the classical educational institute network route, but also through the mid-career trainings. So just to summarize, I would say private sector is absolutely pivotal for the success of the sustainability initiatives in the country and the wider ecosystem.
It's time for a quick break here. We'll be back shortly. Stay tuned. Welcome back. You're watching IDFC First Bank Presents Leaders of Tomorrow's Season 12. In line with World Sustainability Day, we are bringing you a very special discussion tonight highlighting factors that can drive India's sustainable future. Listen in. So at this point, I would like to turn our focus to agriculture because there are many MSMEs in India that are involved in this critical sector. Dr. Vibha, I would like to bring you in here. Could you talk to us a little bit about how TERI's recent work is promoting sustainable agriculture and also the role of biotechnology in food security?
There is a technique called tissue culture. And tissue culture is basically that if you have a plant of the desired kind, that you either make a cutting out of it or you make a graft so that the characters of that plant are maintained. Great, but then it cannot be adopted on all the plants, all the species, you can't do it. And second is that number of plants that you can make from one are restricted. And third most important one is that the disease with which that one plant, mother plant suffers, you are propagating it to all the progeny. So in case of tissue culture, what we do is we test the mother plant for known viruses, diseases, treat them if they are contaminated or if they are infected, and then make millions of copies. The potential is from one plant, you can make 1 million plants in a year. And all the plants will be free of diseases, so you can carry them across international boundaries, introduce them in a virgin land, and so on.
Okay.
Second technology, like I'll now come to that, yes, you have to increase productivity and use of fertilizers is important. If you have broadcasted urea, it's also going to the air. It will get converted into nitrous oxide, ammonia, and it will go to the air. And even if you have applied urea applicator or otherwise, it will go to your aquifer. And that is how we also say that the level of nitrogen is too high and it's no more potable water in many of the villages. So that is where the nano fertilizer becomes extremely important. And to explain what is nano is that you break this urea molecule into million pieces, and then it gets absorbed by the plant cell. With the help of drones, you can spray it on the expanded leaves. So, and within 3 hours, it is 98-99% absorption by the plant. So afterwards, whether it rains, whatever happens, it's already in the plant.
Sure.
So it is not going to the air. It is not causing any pollution. So these technologies are extremely important. And last but not the least, I'll also like to say that to complete this entire ring, we also have to take care of that the entire rural area is self-sufficient in energy, and therefore they also have capacity that there is some sort of food processing. The solar cold chambers, that's another opportunity that they don't have to sell perishables. The day they produce it and they process it, and they also process the waste at site into a meaningful product like biogas, compressed biogas, and so on, so that it becomes a complete circle that village economy, they don't waste anything even at the village level. Thank you.
Sure. And just quickly moving on, Ms. Seema, coming to you, can you talk to us a little bit about how CII is working with the MSME sector? And what do you think are the most important metrics or indicators for businesses to measure their sustainability efforts?
So CII extensively works with MSMEs across India. And one of the things that we do is we have a climate action charter that the MSMEs sign up to. And through that climate action charter, we actually help them baseline their emissions. One of the key problems is that the MSMEs do not even know what kind of emissions in terms of the GHG emissions they are creating right now. So the first step is to create that database, create that baseline of emissions. As we speak, we are working across clusters in different states. On your question around what should companies be disclosing, right? And what are the key matrices they should be measuring? I feel that, there is an emphasis globally on climate. So we can see a lot of emphasis on measuring, the climate related emissions, which is the GHG related emissions. What we think should definitely get added to this is monitoring the impact on ecosystems, because I think that is right now limited. So what are viable businesses if we were to actually internalize the cost of the externalities, which will be if we start measuring these dependencies and impacts, then we'll have the true cost of those externalities, and then we'll know whether we are building competitive, sustainable, resilient businesses or not. So this is the next step in what we need to measure and monitor.
Fantastic. Sushant, coming to you, tell us what emerging global sustainability trends do you believe will shape the future of business in India, say over the next decade or so? And, because our show is on MSMEs, so from a business perspective, how important is sustainability in attracting and retaining investors?
Sure. So there are two dimensions to what you asked, right? So the first dimension is what are the trends which are playing out globally, which would have a bearing on the Indian ecosystem, right? So I would say as India is now fairly well integrated in the world economy, and if you take a step back, you see that there is almost like a perfect storm that is happening right now. So you have energy transition happening. You have a huge amount of focus on ESG and sustainability. You have the entire rise of the global south that is also coming in. So therefore, the geopolitical as well as economic center of the world is shifting more towards the emerging economies. So all these factors coupled with the changes that we see in digital and digitization, they are creating the perfect storm for actually accelerating sustainability adoption. Now, specifically from an India dimension, what I could see is one, a huge amount of focus on renewable energy adoption. The second key theme is around circular economy. I see a lot of focus on recycling and repurposing, and that includes themes around sustainable sourcing, reducing the emissions, looking at embedded carbon, looking at and ensuring fair labor practices. India has been a hub of technology innovations, as we all are aware, right? And from that perspective, when we are talking about ESG or sustainable, we often talk about leading technologies like AI, Gen AI, IoT in the same breath. You cannot implement sustainable practices on back of the classical ways of working. And India, again, is seeing emergence of a lot of startups and innovators which are solving this in a very, very unique way. So those are themes that I believe which will happen from an ecosystem perspective. One theme that has gone fairly strong globally, and eventually I see that picking up in India as well, is around the entire customer preference for sustainable products and services. So the entire customer demand for sustainability is the other angle that I see, which is a trend which is going to definitely become prevalent. Then the second theme that you asked about is around investments, right? I often say sustainability is also good business, right? And why I say so is, one, if you look from an investor standpoint, if your investee companies are having strong sustainability and ESG agenda incorporated into their operations, then you can be very sure that they have a better handle on the external risks. So if you are managing your sustainability practices well, you are probably more resilient and better prepared than your next door neighbor. Second theme from investors' perspective, which is important, is sustainable businesses often are a long-term value for you, right? Because they have a lens around long-term profitability. And third is that you have to tune into the market. If the market demand is moving towards sustainable products and services, then if you are investing in companies which prioritize sustainability, then they are more likely to attract and retain customers. So I believe, as I said earlier, sustainability is great business, both for the businesses which are working on it, as well as for the investors and venture capitalists which want to invest in something which is emerging and new.
And finally, as we wrap up this discussion, I'd like your closing remarks. On World Sustainability Day, what message would you like to share with all the entrepreneurs watching our show about the importance of prioritizing sustainability? Why should they focus on it? What are the long-term benefits? Let's start with you, Dr. Vibha.
To me, sustainability is a mindset. It is the day you decide, you'll find it's not expensive, as mentioned by Sushant. It is something which will actually make you grow. And it is, as I said, it's a mindset, and you can easily achieve it without spending more, and you'll feel very happy about it once you adopt it.
Ms. Seema?
So sustainability action is not something that you're doing for the environment. So many a times we think we are doing this for the environment, for the next generation. I feel that sustainability, and my message is sustainability is really business sustainability. If you need to exist as a business, you need to be sustainable. Sustainability is the new normal. And if you're not sustainable, you're not going to remain in this ecosystem for long. So just become sustainable, because it's good business and it's the only way to grow.
Mr. Sushant?
So my message to entrepreneurs is sustainability is sound business strategy. You are at inflection point of this theme, and the ecosystem and regulations are very supportive. Go and make the most of it.
Well, this has been an incredibly insightful discussion, and our viewers will gain a lot from it. Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Vibha, Ms. Seema, and Mr. Sushant. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It's been an awesome conversation.
And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of IDFC First Bank Presents Leaders of Tomorrow Season 12. We hope you enjoyed the episode. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.